Welcome to Senior Stay or Go TV, a show to educate, entertain, and advocate on behalf of our aging adults. We are here to provide you the best information for your quality of life.
Welcome to the Senior Stay or Go program. Today we have Scott Pirrello, who is the head of the Elder Abuse Prosecutors for San Diego District Attorney's Office right here in town, and he's been a prosecutor for over 13 years. He focuses exclusively on prosecuting all varieties of elder abuse, including physical, financial, sexual, and neglect cases, and specializes in working with these very vulnerable victims. Scott, we are so happy to have you today because especially with COVID and sheltering in place, we know that things have gotten very, very dicey for some of our seniors.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. On behalf of our district attorney, Summer Steffen, it's a pleasure to be here and talk to you and your audience.
Thank you, Scott. And the biggest concerns currently for our seniors, given the period that we're in, can you expound on that a little bit for us?
Certainly. For years, what we've known is the number one risk factor for all the different types of elder abuse is isolation. Hands down, all the research supports that. And what you have in this COVID-19 coronavirus era is a perfect storm, so to speak, because you've never had a period of time where there's been so much isolation in our elder community. And it's at a time, it's multifaceted, right? In one sense, elders themselves, especially those who are in facilities, are at such a point of heightened anxiety that their mental health is suffering. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have this mandated isolation where they can't have the physical contact with their loved ones. They're really depending on the facilities they're in some cases. So it's really this perfect storm. And so we're so greatly concerned, anyone that works with elders or in the elder abuse arena or just elder care, it is, like I said, that perfect storm.
Yeah, we've taken it upon ourselves to call a lot of our past clients just to let them know somebody's thinking about them, and they so enjoy even just a 3 to 5 minute phone call once a week.
It's such an incredible thing that you're doing, and everyone should be doing it within their own social circle, their family circle, their community circle. Just checking in. That's really all it takes is just checking in whenever you can, like you said, for a few minutes, and just ask. And we all need to work on our kind of elder abuse red flag and warning sign vocabulary. And it sometimes you don't want to pry into someone's life, but if you are checking in, you've got an opportunity to ask a question that could save someone. It could save them from losing their life savings just by saying, have you talked to anyone else in the past few days? Has anyone been over to visit you? Because wouldn't you be shocked if they said, well, wouldn't you know that my grandson got in a little trouble the other day and his attorney sent a nice man over my house to pick up $10,000 in cash? Because that's what's happening. I don't know if you've seen the news just in the last few days, but that's what's happening right here to our neighbors in San Diego. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
What about the tracers? Or I've heard of that as a scam going on. Is that something you're involved with?
Yeah, so what we've known forever is that the scammers are studying what we're doing, right? Most of these scammers are far away from us. They're across the world, in Asia, in Africa, in the Caribbean, and they are studying American behaviors. They're studying law enforcement. They know our tactics. They know the banking system. They know the hurdles that they are going to have to go through in order to get your parents or your grandparents' money. And they study that. So this is no different. They are understanding the dynamics that this health crisis has presented, and they are seizing the moment. So, for example, the one scam that we've seen forever, right, where the granddaughter or grandson allegedly calls and says, I've been in a terrible accident in Tijuana. I'm stuck in jail. Please send money. Well, wouldn't you know that the scammers are quickly pivoting, and now people are getting a phone call that says, Grandma, Grandpa, I've got COVID-19. I'm stuck in the hospital. I can't get out. I don't have health insurance. you have to pay, or I'm not going to, I need a ventilator or whatever. So they are using the story of the day to drive, the same old narratives. And I could elaborate on a few other of the scams as we go on.
Well, please feel free to, because one that I recently read was SDG&E, people pretending to be SDG&E and coming in and taking your breakers and cutting your electrical wires, and then it's costing the homeowner thousands of dollars to do the repairs. It's like, why would you want to put somebody in the dark when they've already been isolated, but they're only trying to exasperate the situation to be able to then go back and take more advantage of that party?
Wow. Yeah. I've heard different variations. In San Diego, we have had a lot of scams involving utility people posing as utility workers.
Correct.
And they might say that they need to check the breaker or the wires to get into the house. But I've never heard that they actually do anything. Normally, they're using that as a ruse to get into the house, to either case the house out for later, or, to walk through the house unfettered and steal jewelry or steal cash or ask for a check for the work. So that's a scam that's ongoing, not something specific to the coronavirus. We are seeing really an uptick in the reports of scams directly related to the coronavirus, and they're coming in a few different ways. One of the most effective ones just in the last few weeks is a text message that someone will get. And it says, someone, because of this contact tracing that you mentioned a moment ago, Ron, and they'll say, someone close to you or someone that you've been in contact with has been confirmed to have a COVID-19 diagnosis. Click this link in order to follow up, or click this link so that you could get testing. And of course, as soon as you click anything, you're opening Pandora's box. Who knows whether they're using that to access your device, or they're using that right away to get payment from you, or just at the least bit, they know that someone is engaged, that someone has responded, and then in whatever far-flung call center they're in, right? They know that they've got someone, we call it don't get hooked, like you're baiting a fish. Now, you could click on that link and they know they've got someone on the line, and then they have very effective people. They're just really so good at what they do, and they will engage. The other interesting parts are, again, you've really got to be impressed by how sophisticated they are. They've learned that there is a stimulus program here in the United States, that people are getting checks from the government. So within, 48 hours of that announcement, people, elders, most predominantly in the United States, start getting phone calls, emails, and text messages saying, we've got your government check, your stimulus payment. Please click here to verify your social security number. You're not going to receive your check unless you verify this or call this number. So those are the primary ways that they're getting the money. They're either offering free testing, free supplies, they're offering, free masks, they're baiting you into thinking you've been exposed to the disease, or they're telling you that they are the key somehow to you getting your stimulus check. We also see a rise in the charitable donation scams. I mean, this is just the lowest of the low, right? You'll get a call that says that you're raising money for frontline healthcare workers. So, it's so sad to tell people not to trust the people that they're calling them and emailing, even when it sounds so well intended. But there's some useful tips on how to protect yourself. And the unfortunate part is, if you follow the advice, again, it leads to greater isolation in a way. So it's incumbent on all of us to really stay engaged with the elderly in our own families, social circles, professional circles, houses of worship, whatever it is, however you can check in, like we talked about earlier.
And again, we know there's a protocol if someone suspects somebody of abusing a senior. Walk us through that so that gets out there in the public domain as well.
Sure. At our office, at the district attorney's office, we really could not do our job when it comes to elder abuse without Adult Protective Services. They are just an amazing organization and agency here in the county. So there's two different things, right? If you look out across the street from your house and you see an elderly person across the street and you think they're being abused, that you witnessed something, that's where you want to call the police. You could call, you know, if it's a physical case, you want to call 911 and get intervention immediately. But suppose you just see, you know, something with a neighbor down the street. Maybe there's a caregiver that just doesn't, there's something untoward about them, or you're concerned about the care, that maybe the elder is losing weight, or they just don't seem to be cared for in the same way. The same goes for suspecting financial abuse, right? You might just see a red flag that your neighbor, or you talk to your aunt or uncle and they said they've been to the bank, and there's no reason why they should ever have to go to a bank based on their fixed income or whatever it is. That's when you call Adult Protective Services. You don't have to have evidence of a crime. You could also be anonymous. So you could call if you suspect elder abuse, if you're concerned for someone's welfare, and it's a great way to put a situation on the map, so to speak, for all the other resources available in the county. And that phone number, if you could share with your listeners, is 1-800-339-4661. You could just Google San Diego County Adult Protective Services and the number will pop right up. And call and make a referral. It's really, there's no risk to you to do it, but the intervention that can come can really get in there before, you know, I see the worst of the worst. Once my office hears about it, it's devastating. The impact is devastating. We see people literally losing their life savings. And, you know, there's research out now suggesting that financial abuse on our most elder and vulnerable population is actually a public health risk. Because if you know anyone that's ever fallen victim, even to a contractor maybe that's ripped them off, it hastens their life. It literally shortens their lifespan. They will develop health complications because of the anxiety and the stress, and they start cutting people out of their life and become less trusting. We have so many adult children of our elder victims tell us, sadly, that, you know, their parents lived out their last months or years not trusting people, not talking to people, and it's really devastating. So we need to do as much on the prevention side as possible, because even if we are able to prosecute someone, even putting someone in jail does not help fix the problem, which is the devastation that the victims of financial elder abuse suffer.
They die of a broken heart.
Absolutely, and that could come whether it's a family member, you know, we have plenty of those cases, sadly, a longtime trusted caregiver that gets access to the bank accounts, or someone that's making a phone call from thousands of miles away. The impact is the same on the elder victim.
So if the elder called you and said, okay, if I get a phone call, what should I do? If my grandson or granddaughter calls, of course I'm going to want to help them. Or if I get a call from a charity that, you know, I usually give something to, what do I do? What would you advise?
So the best advice that we can give is still, if you do not know the phone number that's calling you, do not answer the phone. It's as simple as that. But it's hard because what do we know? I mean, we could laugh about it, right? Thinking of my own grandparents, they're sitting home, maybe alone. They're giving, you know, guilt trips to all their family members. And finally the phone rings. It's the most exciting thing that's happened all day. And here we are telling them, don't pick up the phone. And all they want to do is talk to someone, right? So, but that's really the most practical advice. The phone companies have gotten a little bit better. Sometimes it says potential scam on the phone, but oftentimes they're using what's called the neighbor scam. And you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, that you get a call from the same area code, and often it's the same 3 digits of your cell phone number. So it looks like the phone call is coming from your next door neighbor. And so they need to know they shouldn't pick up the phone. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing is, as soon as anyone engages them in some emergency scenario, it's 100% a scam. The Social Security Administration, the IRS, your granddaughter, your grandson, no one is ever going to call and demand money immediately. And so we just remind them to tell everyone, just hang up the phone, call a family member, call anyone, and just talk about it, right? They're going to tell the elder, don't call anyone or your granddaughter is going to be in greater danger. But really the message has to be, just talk to somebody, because as soon as someone has a second to reflect on the situation, they immediately realize it's a scam. And the people that are falling for the scam, one of the misconceptions is, oh, these are people with Alzheimer's or dementia.
No.
It's not, because when you think intuitively, if you're a parent or grandparent has an Alzheimer's diagnosis, their financial wherewithal has hopefully been taken from them a long time ago. No, it's the people that, unfortunately, it's their families say, I can't believe this happened. They're sharp as a tack. They're still driving. They're still volunteering at the kids' school. They're very
highly
active.
educated.
It could happen to you or me. That's the bottom line, because the scammers are so good that often the victims will reflect back and say, I don't know what happened. I've even gone to a training before. I've learned about this. I somehow was in a trance, and I can't explain it. I was willing to do whatever they were doing. And you see the surveillance video, right, of the victim going to the bank or going to Walmart or Home Depot to buy gift cards at the scammer's direction. And the reason why you see on the surveillance, they're still on their phones, because the scammers never let them reflect on it for a second. They get them on the phone and they will stay on for hours and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to go to the bank. Keep me on the phone. Get the cash out. Now you've got the cash. Here's the next step. And they keep them on the phone. And it's really frightening how they just get people in this trance-like state where they're just following the scammers around.
What we've found and what we've learned is a lot of times the scammer and the victim become intertwined, and they don't believe their own loved ones that it is a scam, and it really divides the family in the chaos.
Yes, and that is very true. And what I could say is, it's the same conversation where you might have to tell your elderly relative that they can't drive anymore, right? They're going to feel embarrassed, humiliated, and shamed into believing that a scammer. And so you've got to be delicate but stern with them, right? And so it's you don't want to shame them, right? And I might be guilty myself of, you call your parent who you have an open relationship with, and your dad or your mom tells you they just sent $10,000 away. And your reflexive action might be, what are you, crazy? How could you have been so stupid? Why didn't you call me? And that's the reaction that they're so afraid of, and why they're not telling people, right? That's why so much of this abuse goes unreported. And elders will never, we know we're only catching 1 out of 25 of these cases, because the elders we know will not want to tell anyone. And so it's a serious conversation in identifying that, hey, this doesn't mean that you have dementia. It doesn't mean you're going to the nursing home. You need to tell me about it, because we need to get help from the authorities, right? And anyone that's watching this, blame me, right? Say, I saw the deputy district attorney on elder abuse give a talk, and he said, you're probably being scammed, right? And so, yes, we get these people that develop this relationship. And, one of the most powerful scams that people don't like to talk about, and it's a lot more prevalent than we think, is what's called the sweetheart scam. And there are elders who are going on Match.com or even from Facebook. And it's interesting, mostly it's at the prodding of their own children, who say, hey, mom or dad, mom or dad's been gone for 20 years. You're a widow. Just get out. You don't need to actually go on a date, but you might meet someone you can talk to or chat with. Within 24 hours of you posting your Match profile, you're contacted by some gorgeous international businessman. And he's from Rancho Santa Fe. For those in San Diego, he'll say he's from some wealthy neighborhood, but of course he's in Kuala Lumpur right now building a skyscraper. And they will spend months, I'm talking on the phone, love letters on emails, cultivating this relationship. And ultimately what will happen is, on the eve of them flying back to San Diego for this beautiful reunion, they will get held up in customs. And what do you know? I need $50,000 to pay the customs agent off. And it will go quickly from $50,000 to directing the person to reverse mortgage their house. And this isn't one case out of 1,000. We have thousands of these cases, and there's a victim right here in San Diego, and it's just one example where we're currently looking into. We're talking $700,000 to $800,000 that was sent away over the course of a few months. And so, yes, you try to go call that person and tell them that this is not a real love affair, and you're talking about real devastation. And so you need to find the resources, and it needs to be a loving, compassionate approach to tell someone, hey, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but I've recently been educated on this, and it could happen to me, and I think you might be the victim of a scam right now. So that's the other thing, just so people know, is that it's an immediate red flag if you're asked to pay for anything in a gift card, a cryptocurrency. We're seeing them direct people to set up an account. But gift cards is a real primary way that scammers have been getting their money, and they will send the elder to one of the big box retailers to buy large denomination gift cards and then give them the code on the back of the card. Then they could pull the money off. And now with coronavirus, because a lot of people are isolated at home, we're seeing just good old fashioned them driving to the house, sending a courier to the house to pick up cash, thousands of dollars in cash.
Wow.
I mean, Scott, it's such a ginormous problem, and we know you have taken this on 120%, not even 110%, and we appreciate you doing that. And I know the department in this county of San Diego is doing everything they possibly can in the resources that you have, and we really appreciate you taking the time today to do this. And if we can just, it's like anything, we could just have one person call one person so we could have a little network going of, hey, and ask open-ended questions so you can engage in the conversation. Because we do know, Patty and I, we do know they love to chat. And after 2 or 3 minutes, man, they'll tell you everything that's been going on. So it's not, for those that are listening to this, it's not that difficult to engage someone in a conversation as to what they've been doing in their lives over the last day, month, 3 months, obviously. And you may really save someone's life. I mean, they won't pass from COVID. They will pass from a broken heart.
It's the absolute truth. And yes, and that's, Stefan deserves some credit, because not only are we prosecuting people, but the other P, the prevention piece, is where we need to engage the community, like your organization and all your followers, because anyone listening could make that phone call that could have preempted the one victim I mentioned from losing $800,000. Who knows where the intervention point was in that? And so yes, we're all equally as powerful when it comes to preventing the abuse. And it's our job, I think, in the district attorney's office to educate the community about the latest scams and scam activity. But then it's a call to action for everyone in the community to get out at the dinner table, on all your Zoom chats, and posting on wherever forum you have access to, so that everyone, not just the elders, but their caregivers, their relatives, everyone has a piece and plays a role in this prevention.
So as we sign off, if you want to give contact information, Adult Protective Services, however you want people to get the word out.
The best thing to do, if you suspect someone is the victim of any form of elder abuse, we didn't talk about all the other forms, but if you're concerned about anyone, a relative, a neighbor, make an Adult Protective Services referral. They are so skilled and determined. Is this something they will respond to? Do they immediately? They will make a referral to law enforcement if that's the case. So if you see elder abuse happening and you're concerned in an emergency situation, call the police. Otherwise, make an Adult Protective Services referral, and that is the best way. And I'll get involved. My office will get engaged if the scenario arises to that level. So that's the best way to start, to document some concern for any elder in our community.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We really, really appreciate your time. We know you're super busy right now, but we do really appreciate it, because it is really important information, and especially right now with all the isolation and the COVID. And like you said, they're learning our systems and what's happening even better than we know them. And that's the unfortunate part, because they're taking advantage of that. And we really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Be well, Scott. Thank you.
Take care.